So great, awesome. So can you just give a quick brief about like who you are, what you do, why you started Untapped, and what is your vision, where do you want to take it, and just a little bit of info. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Corrie. I'm the founder of Untap Digital. We are a social media marketing agency based in London, but we work with clients in different parts of the world on their social media content, advertising, and strategy. So basically, if a brand is doing social media really badly or they don't feel like they're getting the full potential from it that they could, we'll step in and help them to manage that better. Um, the vision for it, I've got quite a big vision for where I want it to go. We're 4 years into it right now, but really the first 2 years were just me freelancing, and I didn't really have that much of a big vision for it. I thought my kind of main two objectives were I didn't want a manager and I wanted to travel more. So that's why I left my 9 to 5 and started a business. But 2 years into it, I realized I was super busy. I wasn't getting the chance to travel. And the way that I was running the business felt like I had, if I had 10 different clients, it felt like I had 10 different managers. And it was becoming quite demanding. So it was at that stage that I decided to switch to the agency format way of doing things and start growing out the team and growing our capacity for client projects that we could work on. So that's my vision for the next 12 months, I'd say, is continuing to work on business development and grow the number of people in the team and grow the projects that we're working on and the clients
Interesting.
we're working with.
So from freelancing to being an entrepreneur, and you did this in 2 years.
Yeah. I
Interesting.
think I mean, I feel like the biggest shift was from a 9 to 5 into freelancing, and then freelancing into running an agency. It still was a jump. There's a lot that you don't have as a freelancer that you do have as an agency owner, like hiring people, managing people. I feel there
And
can
how
be
did you
more.
manage that?
Learning as I go is really like my advice for everything. I had a bit of management experience from previous jobs. I'd never been a direct line manager for anyone, but I'd managed interns or things like this on small projects. So um, I went to a 2-hour course on leadership run by a company called the School of Life here in London, but I don't think 2 hours is enough to teach you anything in
Everything,
depth.
yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but that was a really good course just for some kind of general things to think about with being a leader, and yeah, just learn from there. Really, I think my main way of approaching hiring is thinking about obviously skills and experience is important, but my main thing is like if someone's in my team, I'm going to give them 100%. Like I'm going to give them 100% of my time, of my energy, of my knowledge, or I'll be looking out for things that can progress them, or events they should go to, courses they should attend, to help their personal development. So if I'm giving that to them, then I want 100% dedication back, and for them to be at that same level. So I'm really looking for motivated and enthusiastic people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then how about like being an entrepreneur, being a female and entrepreneur? Like how is that? Like is it hard? Like do you feel like there is a difference between like when it comes to gender or being an entrepreneur? Like there's a difference or something? Like how do you see that?
It's a very interesting area, and I can never A/B test being an entrepreneur as a man. I can't go back to 2016 and live the same journey as a male entrepreneur versus a female entrepreneur. But speaking from my experience of having done it as a female entrepreneur, I mean, even the fact that we use the term female entrepreneur, right? Because it's made such a kind of other, but you wouldn't say male entrepreneur or the
Yeah, I
term
wouldn't I
girl
wouldn't
boss.
differentiate, of course, but I mean being an entrepreneur as a female, like how do you how that looks like?
Yeah, but I mean, just the way that we look at female entrepreneurs, I think is different because it is such a minority, and I think you have so much. I feel like you have more to navigate in the way that you do whenever you're a minority in any space. There's always assumptions made, or perhaps people underestimating you on the lower end of things, right up through to just blatant sexism, which I've also had from all sorts of instances that I could list. But it's I think there's also a real benefit to it in that there's an amazing female entrepreneur community, and that I think the way that females are, you can share so much with each other and talk to each other so much. And
The reason why
it's
I'm
definitely
asking this is because sometimes when you start seeking, when you start taking a serious steps forward in terms of seeking investments, approaching investor, looking for a venture capitalist, at that point, do you think that the will be any different between male and female?
massively, and the statistics show that. That wouldn't even just be my personal opinion proving that. It's I think the last stats that I heard were that 2% of venture capital funding goes to female entrepreneurs.
Really?
98%
2%?
goes to male entrepreneurs. 2%, yeah. And the studies also show that the majority of female businesses, they start as a solo founder, whereas male
Sure.
businesses are more likely to get co-founders involved. Obviously, if you've got co-founders involved, I feel like you're more likely to be on track to have a bigger business and to go for funding and to have those kind of goals in mind. Whereas my impression of the female business community is sometimes that whether it's that society has placed this on us, or that because of what society places on us, we then convince ourselves that it's true. But I think sometimes we can think way, way, way too small and think of yourself as a small business owner and
Sure.
limit yourself, like you're going to freelance or run a small business, but not think in terms of getting co-founders, hiring teams, and getting funding as well. I think it's not really explored as much in the female business space, perhaps.
Yeah, the reason why, so I've asked that question to many people before when I've done the interviews, and usually they have the same mindset, like male entrepreneur have a better chance getting more investments, have more attractions, and so on, and as well as some industries probably kind of more into female, like maybe fashion or beauty, something like that. But back to on top right now, when you said that you do have, like, you've worked with India, US, and you also have clients in the UK. How do you right now it's like different target audience, like different people living in different culture and communities. How can you come up with a content that can fit in like can help these target audience? And then also, if someone from the North Africa region is specifically watching this and they're interested, how would you help them if they need content in different language other than English? Could be Arabic, it could be French.
Well, to answer the second part of the question first, I think language barrier obviously exists, but if anything, I'd say that was one of the easier elements of a campaign working across different countries, and in that you can hire a translator or bring on board a social media consultant or freelancer from that specific region for the project. I think to look at the first part of the question, the content that you create for social media audiences would be different even within the UK, or even within different industries and sections of Egypt or India or wherever you are. I think there's so much capability these days with social content to make things really, really localized and really niche based on what that target audience wants to see. And that isn't necessarily just dictated by the country that they live in, but by their interests, by their age,
Sure.
by a whole other host of things. So to create content for clients, it's a mixture of things really, but we'll always sit down at the start of every project and have a kick-off meeting to really, like, in detail unpick the audience persona and who exactly they want to be working with and speaking to. And then we'll do our own research around that kind of demographic and the kind of content that they're looking at online already, who they follow, the kind of influencers that they prefer, newspapers that they read, whatever format they're getting their information from. And then, there's tips and tricks for what works well on social, regardless of demographics sometimes as well. So we'll always bring a bit of that into projects too.
Interesting. And then do you have an expertise in a specific social media platform? Maybe specifically focused on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Twitter?
We've worked across most platforms, but I'd say the most common ones on the business to consumer side of things, when we work with clients in that space, are Facebook and Instagram. But then the business to business clients that we have, that would most likely be LinkedIn, potentially Twitter sometimes as well in some industries.
Interesting. And then you're currently based in UK, and that most of your clients come from UK, and that's where, right? And then how do you see like maybe running an agency or a business in a well-known big city? How is it like? Do you think this is helping you much, like pushing your business forward, or it doesn't really matter?
I think so much is online these days and digital anyway. And I think, the impact of COVID and working from home has proved that more than ever, that your circumstance isn't necessarily in business going to be dictated by the location you're in to the same extent that I think it would have been previously. But having said that, a lot of the businesses we work with are based in London. It's very helpful when we can go and meet with people face to face. I think it improves the relationships. A huge number of business events are based in London, so that's really great from a networking point of view. So I've always lived in London, so it's what I'm used to. I'm quite a city person anyway. I go a bit crazy when I'm in the countryside for too long. So London suits us.
I've never been in London, but I've been in the US and other European countries too. But when you said you wanted to leave 9 to 5 job because you want to do a freelancing because you wanted to travel more, but then you moved from freelancing into being an entrepreneur, which means being an entrepreneur, you probably gonna be working more than 12 hours a day, right?
Yes,
No,
some days.
yes and no, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I found that I wasn't traveling that much anyway as a freelancer. Like, I really had this kind of vision in mind, and I knew a couple of people that were living a digital nomad lifestyle. So I thought, maybe I'll go and live in Thailand and work from a beach in Thailand. And it never really materialized. I think partly because I was stressed trying to get clients and make it all work. And I kind of realized, like, this is still going to be stressful whether you're in London or whether you're on a beach in Thailand. Like, if I was on holiday, I wanted to be on holiday and not also worrying about work. And now I think I can still travel on. Obviously, you can still take holiday even though you run a business, even though it never stops completely. But the great thing about now is that I can travel and it be a work trip. So some of the best trips that I've had have been where I've been going to a business conference and then I've had a couple of days either side in that city.
Yeah.
And even just the conferences themselves, like, I've just still really loved that. Like, it's not a holiday.
You're still enjoying the
sense.
time, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what was your feeling when you got your first check from Untapped, from the first client?
Gosh, that would have been so long ago. I'm trying to think. Well, the early contracts we had, to be honest, were tiny. So it was probably not a feeling of elation at getting the first check. It was probably like, what have I done? How will I live on this? Because I took a big pay cut to go from my 9 to 5 to freelancing. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realise. I had people saying to me in the first couple of months, they'd joke and be like, dinner's on you tonight, now you're a business owner. And I was thinking, like, I'm definitely the poorest person at this table. But everyone's got a kind of hyped impression of you. But the first like big checks that we started getting, like that feels good. I think mainly it felt good because it's proof of concept. Like as soon as you see, oh, you know, people are willing to pay and pay like reasonable money for this service, I think you can jump from, oh, okay, they paid that for this, maybe we can expand the service and do this and do this and do this, and then the costs, you know, can go up, and it's just good momentum, I think, really. So yeah,
And how do you handle this? Usually, clients come and say, you know what, I want to invest $1,000 on Facebook campaigns, for instance, and I wanted to develop content, and I want to, but in return, I'm looking for this target of sales, or I want this return of investments. Like, how do you handle that? Because this situation always happens, right? And it's very challenging. And when you sit and talk to the client and try to convince them, like, it might not be your fault, right? It could be whatever circumstances, right? There are a lot of challenges that you might be going through, or the client maybe wasn't very supportive to help you out with your job. So how do you handle a situation like that?
You're right that it does happen all the time and it is challenging. It's happened to me twice this week. I think there's a couple of things that would go into that. Really, it's about setting the expectation that you're providing a service which, you know, is a list of things which you will tick off all of them and do your absolute best to, you know, make the persona for the audience and kind of discover what messaging and imagery and video and everything they'll enjoy best and resonate with the most from the ads. But there needs to be that expectation, particularly if it's a new business and it's an untested product or service in the market, that this might be the first time they're advertising to people, and there needs to be some learning on the business's side as well. Not just on the marketing side, but the business needs to think about, is it something that people actually want? So, you know, if you're advertising a brand new business, you need to, I think, sometimes be quite honest with the client about what you think will work and what won't work, because obviously, as business owners, we have egos around what we're putting out there. We think it's great, and as the marketer, you need to step in sometimes and say, hey, this is not making sense for these reasons, and actually you'll see a better return if you change this. And also, it's about the returns they're looking to get out versus the money they're putting in. So if a client comes to you and says, we want to spend, you know, for your example, $1,000 per month on ads, and we want to get 1,000 sales with that, and each sale is worth 7,000, you know, and they're looking at getting millions back from the 1,000 ad spend, is sometimes pointing out common sense and saying,
No way.
this is not possible. And if it was possible, the whole world would be billionaires because everyone would be doing it.
Yeah. And have you ever thought about outsourcing?
Yeah, we do. We outsource. And initially, outsourcing is what I did when I was freelancing. Things got busy before I started hiring people full time. I would outsource. Now we don't do as much of it. Mainly, it's on a project by project basis. If there's something that comes in that we don't have the capacity for in-house, but we don't have enough similar projects to that to hire someone permanently for that role, then we'll outsource.
Interesting. All right, good. The reason why I'm asking is because, yeah, definitely there might be some room for development and growing the team if you outsource to some people outside of the UK. Definitely, it's going to be way much cheaper. I can imagine it's going to be way much cheaper than when you pay someone local in London.
Yeah, and I think that's the toss-up that a lot of agencies make. You know, some people would go for a business model of charging the client here a lot and then outsourcing to regions where it's cheaper.
Sure.
You know, I think there's benefits to both. What I've learned that I prefer as a business owner is having people around in the team permanently, and that being face-to-face where possible. Obviously, COVID is throwing a spanner in the works with that, but I've enjoyed that element of it much more than when I was outsourcing and working with people all over, and you'd just be communicating via Slack or emails. And I think it feels it can feel very lonely as a solo business owner anyway, because even if you bring on advisors and a team and close friends and things like that to talk to, there's still no one who knows exactly what it's like as well as you do. So at least with having a team in place rather than outsourced
Yeah.
freelancers, I
Maybe
found
at
it
least
a
you
little bit more
you start with a team in place, and then later on, if you wanted to outsource, yeah, definitely you can outsource. And then if someone is interested in communicating with you, like what is the best way to contact you to ask about a proposal or to explain the projects to you and see if you can help? And
So you can find us online if you search Untapped Digital, or you can go to our website, which is www.untappeddigital.co, which is CO at the
yeah,
end. And you can contact us there, or you can send us a message on Instagram, Twitter,
awesome.
any social media channel. You'll find us at Untapped Digital. And then I'm on Instagram at Corrie F Jones as well. You can send me a DM.
Interesting. And then I'm giving you a space just to ask me any question if you have any, whatever comes to your mind, just ask me.
So I'm interested to know what you think the differences are in social media in London and Egypt, like in terms of how people use social, the kind of channels they prefer, like what do you see happening over there?
See, in Cairo, Egypt specifically, we're very much into Facebook and Instagram when it comes to advertising for your service, or um, if you do have a product and you're trying to sell it, like e-commerce eventually. And here, when it's a very much the content should be in Arabic, all right. But by the way, majority in Egypt and the North Africa region speak in English very well. But to trust a service and to trust a product, they need to see it. The content will probably be in Arabic, much better, to get much greater results. Okay. Um, in UK, probably definitely it's going to be in English, and I'm not sure. As you just mentioned, it's going to be Facebook and Instagram. Most of the business are using. Um, but there is a new approach um, that no one actually has touched before, which I think that's something I definitely can help you with, which is LinkedIn, not campaigns, but in a different strategy, reaching out to people with different messages, using some a little bit of an automation. And this is something I've tested myself, and I've started a company. It's called linkedprofessionals.com. You can Google it. And since day one, I've got 2 clients, like since day one. Um, and it
When
was,
was day one?
I'm sorry?
When was day one? How long have you been running?
Day one was 2 months ago.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. And right now I'm growing up to 5 clients. So, and they are coming from everywhere, by the way, not only in Egypt. They're coming from the US, Europe, and North Africa. So that's actually kind of a platform, I would say, if you really want to have a difference, think about LinkedIn. Um, and it's for yourself as well, for your business, even just to grow your client database, or if you do have clients who wanted to grow their database, then definitely think about LinkedIn as a tool. And it's a common upcoming thing because Facebook is very much saturated, and and Instagram is is really nice, but I mean, I haven't seen like a business that grows only based on Instagram. Um, you see what I mean?
That's interesting. Yeah, I think, I mean, LinkedIn for sure, from a business perspective, is the platform. In the UK, there's a fair few businesses that use Instagram as their main marketing method, but I think, it's actually something I'd always advise against. Like, if Instagram is the only way that you're getting sales, it's a bit tricky if Instagram goes down or disappears, or you
Sure.
never want to know
Yeah.
all your exes in the past.
And then you have also a room for development if you added um, cold emails into your list of services. That's still a marketing. Um, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I've seen a huge success using cold emails personalized cold emails that goes out to your inbox with your name, but it's still cold email. All right. I've used that myself, and I know the power of it, and I've used it for other clients, and I can tell you that it's working. It's crazy. It's just people coming to me sometimes and asking, you know what, how did you get my email? I'm still interested in you. What are you offering, by the way? Which is good, you know.
Yeah, cold email is one of the ways that we get clients through, and it's crazy all the tools out there that you can find
Yeah,
to get
it really
people's
depends
emails.
on
You can
how
also
big.
guess emails a lot of the time.
What's that?
You can also guess people's emails a lot of the time.
I'm using some online tools so that I can just get the email without bouncing, without being in junk or spam.
Yeah.
So
Like Rocket Reach. Do you use Rocket Reach?
I've used it, yeah, but I'm using other tools actually, way much easier,
Okay.
and it gives me automation, and it's free, which is most important. Um, uh, and it really depends on how big you want to grow. Truly, that's a big quick a big question. I'm asking myself as well this question: how big I want to grow? Because right now, like since day one, I've got 2 clients. Right now, I have 2 VA helping me out with my clients. So you see, in 2 months, I built a business, um, which is I see that's a good progress, not bad.
Yeah, so cool. Oh, congrats on the 2 clients.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, anything that you want to ask me about?
Well, I feel like you need to email me the name of this cold email platform that is better than
Absolutely, yeah.
Rocket Reach.
I sent you that if you need it. Yeah, absolutely. I can email it to
Yeah,
you.
that sounds good.
And just share with you a little bit of these tools. It's interesting, and it definitely can help you out to stand out from the crowd because social media agencies right now are everywhere. Crazy.
It's a very, very
Very
saturated
very competitive market, and if you're not, um, I I would say if you don't have your own connection or if you don't know where to get the clients, I mean, you're out of the game. Um,
Yeah. Well, that's the difference really between a social media agency or people that would go and work in social media. Like the only difference is that someone knows how to get clients and someone doesn't and
Absolutely.
hasn't looked at sales and business development. So, and that's something that for a long time I kind of rejected. I would tell myself, oh, I'm a social media consultant. I don't do sales. And now it's like if someone asks me what I do, it's almost like, well, I do sales and business development, even just more so than being a business founder. Day to day, what I work on is new
You have to
business and
sell. Yeah.
sales. Yeah,
And
you
I
have
would
to.
say you have to sell yourself first, and then if people convinced by you, then they're gonna buy whatever you're offering to them, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much for having
Appreciate
me.
it. Thanks so much, and have a lovely day.
Take care.
Bye bye.